Got to get to Fulton County, Georgia. And here we go. A Georgia Court of Appeals has disqualified the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, from that election interference case. It's coming down right now. The case against Trump and more than a dozen others already largely stalled, as you know. The new ruling means that it will be up to the prosecuting attorney's council in the state of Georgia to find another prosecutor to decide on the case, to take it over and make a decision as to whether or not they continue with a prosecution of.
All right, so I'm not trying to bury the lead here, but you guys have heard Fani Willis has officially been removed from the Georgia election case. It's like I've like walked into bizarre world where Trump is like winning everything. Like every case is like Trump wins. Trump wins. It's like last night I heard he won. This week it's like crazy. So let's talk about what's going on and the history of this thing and why she's being kicked off the case. So you guys remember the whole thing between Fani Willis and her boyfriend, Nathan Wade. Let me put this down a little bit. Well, remember, so Fani was banging her boyfriend, Nathan Wade, and then she was paying him, and the court, Roman, hold on, let me put this up here. Roman, her boyfriend, she hired her boyfriend. They went on all these elaborate trips. Like they went on a cruise, they went to California and all these elaborate trips. So one of the defendant, his name was Michael Roman, his attorney, Ashley Merchant, filed a motion. And that motion was to get Fani Willis removed from that particular case. And the logic behind it was that, hey, if the lead prosecutor is essentially getting a kickback from paying to prosecute Trump, Fani Willis is paying Nathan Wade to prosecute Trump, and then Nathan Wade in turn is taking Fani Willis on all these elaborate vacations. So so she's profiting off of the prosecution of former President Trump. So that went up. Now, remember, Fani Willis' excuse was two things: that she paid Nathan Wade back. Remember, she's like, I paid Nathan Wade back all that money. Then it was like, okay, well, are there any receipts to show that you paid Nathan Wade back? And there were no receipts, right? He was like, I don't have any receipts. It just, I pay everything in cash. Matter of fact, let me see if I can find that clip. Because remember, she kept saying, I pay everything in cash. I pay everything in cash. And we were laughing. We're like, paying cash. And remember, she even had her thing. Here it is. Let me play that. Sorry, this is not. Now the audio went out on this. I gotta redo it. But anyway, so remember, Fani Willis said, "I pay everything in cash." Yada 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 yada. So we got that piece of it. So it went to the judge, and so we just this is just so everybody understands. I'm giving people the background of what happened with the breaking news. If you just joined us, Fani Willis has been removed from the Trump cases because of the conflict of interest. So I'm just giving a background on what happened and how we got here. That's the breaking news. So let's get back to it. So Fani is saying, I'm paying him back in cash. Everybody's like, we don't see, that it's untraceable. We can, if you're paying everybody back in cash, it's untraceable. How the hell is that? How the hell can we trust that? But the judge essentially trusted her and said, okay, since you paid them all back in cash, we'll do this. We'll just remove Nathan Wade. Since you're banging him, we'll remove him and you can stay on the case. Now the Georgia Supreme Court has come forward and says, hey, that's not happening. You've obviously benefited from this, and the proper thing to do because of the appearance of impropriety is to be removed. So here is, let's play the Fox News clip just so now I hope everybody has that little context where that essentially how we got here. Now let me see if I can still find that clip of Fani Willis pay in cash, because I want everybody to see that clip about her saying I paid back in cash. Testifies payments. All right, here we go.
Vacations he paid for him and Willis to take. Willis herself took the stand after Wade finished testifying. She also faced questions about their relationship, and she took a far more defiant stance.
Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you
So this is the original motion to disqualify. So this is where you get the whole, I paid him back in cash.
can say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
When Wade was on the stand, he claimed Willis paid him back in cash for the lavish trips he booked for them, but he said he had no evidence to back that up.
I paid in cash.
You said in the affidavit that you roughly shared travel, though, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this roughly sharing travel, you're saying she reimbursed you.
She did.
And where did you deposit the money she reimbursed you?
Oh, it was cash. She didn't.
So you see the whole, what happened to the money we reimbursed you? It was cash. It was cash. Now we all were like, that's BS. We all knew that was BS, right? She paid back in cash. We all knew that was BS, but that was what she was going on. And, you know, and I got to say, this is fantastic lawyering, because to find out that she's paying him all this money and it's being funneled back to her in these gifts, that's a fantastic thing. So now, you know, the whole payback in cash, we know if somebody says payback in cash, that's what mobsters do, right? I pay in cash because you don't have any receipts to show that you actually paid back the money. So that's where they went with this. Here we go.
She didn't give me any checks.
At some points, Wade appeared to struggle to answer questions about his relationship with Willis.
Did you go to a cabin with Miss Willis ever?
Ever?
Ever.
They're gonna lie. Now the answer to that question was yes. Yes, he did. So now let's get back to the Fox News breaking to see what happens.
Incoming president.
And former Deputy Assistant Attorney General John Yoo is here. John, does this mean that this is yet another one of the cases against Trump that could go away before he's president?
It's another example, Dana, of this lawfare campaign that was waged by Democrats, boomeranging back on them and falling all around their ears. Anyone who watched this trial, remember, this is the DA who claimed that the entire Trump reelection campaign was something like an organized crime racket that was.
Now, I do want to stop it here because I want people to understand what's going on. Fani Willis has been removed from the case because of the conflict of interest, her paying her boyfriend to prosecute Trump and getting those kickbacks. The Court of Appeals has now said, which I have the document here, and we're going to look through it too. I'm share this tab instead, where the Court of Appeals essentially said that the appearance of that impropriety, the appearance that she's paying her boyfriend to prosecute Trump, the fact that the whole pay stuff, the whole pay where you're only, you're paying back in cash and nobody really knows, and he's actually getting more than, he's contracted out for $250, but now he's getting more and all this stuff. All of this, they're saying the appearance is just bad, the appearance of impropriety, and we are going to stop that. We're going to stop that appearance. Now, this goes to another DA. So it goes to a committee, and a committee selects some other DA. And when they select that other DA, it's more than likely going to be a Republican DA because most of the other DAs are Republicans. And when it goes to that other DA, they get to choose whether they're going to continue the case or not. So Fani Willis has totally been removed from the case. She's totally been removed from the case because of this conflict of interest. Let me continue on with the Fox News coverage. I want to go to what is, matter of fact, let me continue with Fox News coverage.
Was intending to deprive everyone of our civil rights to vote. But remember, we saw the dramatic testimony over the summer of how DA Fani Willis had hired her boyfriend, essentially, to be the special counsel, overpaid him, and then had him investigate and bring charges against Donald Trump. It's a complete conflict of interest. And if you take a quick look at the Georgia Appeals Court decision here, that's what it says. There's such an appearance of impropriety, an appearance of a conflict of interest that Fani Willis should not be the prosecutor. I think this spells yet another case that's going to have to either be suspended or more likely.
Yeah. So I think if you think about that, just that piece of it, the appearance, because what they're saying is we don't know if there's an actual conflict. We don't know if he actually paid her back. But if you just stack everything up, right? the fact that she paid back in cash, the fact that you were going on this trip, the fact that they admitted to having this relationship, that's enough to say this, it just stinks. It just stinks. And if the case is as strong as you think it is, if it's as factually valid as you think it is, then guess what? We could easily send it to somebody else and they'll take it over, and it should still work, right? It should still work. But I don't think, Fani wants that to happen. Obviously she's going to be pretty upset about the fact that they're going to take her case and essentially it's done. Her case is, I think most of us realize her case is essentially done.
Roman, who alleged that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis had a relationship with the lead special prosecutor on the case, Nathan Wade. That sent this Fulton County case into a tailspin earlier this year. We had several days long hearing talking about the district attorney's relationship with Wade. They did tell the court that they did have a relationship, but that it didn't have any impact on the case. Now, these co-defendants were upset about this relationship, saying,
"Oh yeah, just to make sure, this is CBS, but just to make sure everybody also understands, the case has been transferred for all defendants. So she's not handling the case at all. So all the co-defendants, that case has been removed. Oh, let me take care of some of these stupid chats before we continue on. First, see the new Superman trailer? Yeah, I like it. And Guy Gardner, I did see that. Yes. I'm definitely watching it. Since she's off the case, can't deny any records communications with DC, Jack Smith. Yeah, because those records should be public anyway. But yeah, she can't. It's going to be somebody else's job whether those records get turned over or not. She said it was because of an ongoing case why she denied it. Yeah, but the other person could also say that too. But it's going to be interesting. Love your videos. Huge fan of your approach and hope you continue to make videos for a long time. Happy holidays. Happy holidays too. Thank you so much, Kyle. I really, really appreciate it. Trump is a liar. Okay. I agree. I think all those politicians are liars. So yeah, I don't think you're telling us anything new. He said he'd win so much that we'd be sick of it. He's pretty winning so much. He is winning so much. I'm sorry. This is not, I know I'm going to read the rest of it, but this is not an example of him not winning. He's like winning everything now. Remarkably sick. Yeah. Winning coming. Yeah, he's winning a lot. Yeah, he's definitely. I know the Democrats are sick of the winning because he's damn sure winning everything. Hello, Nate. Hey, Maggie. Hey, Maggie. What's going on? But yeah, all of them are liars. But Trump is not lying about winning. He's making it. He's making us get sick about it because he's damn sure winning everything. Remember, Fani Willis' father admitted to keeping client money for his personal safe alongside. Yes. I forgot about that. But you're right. That's a no for all you people who don't know. And studying for the LSAT, wish me luck. Logan Hall, good luck with the LSAT. And I always say this. Remember, that my first answer is my best answer for the LSAT. But now let's continue on. So let me, for those of you who are just joining us, because again, I know we had a whole bunch of people just come in. I actually wrote down what I want to say. So December 19th, today, Georgia Appeals Court disqualified Fani Willis, district attorney for Fulton County, from prosecuting a 2020 election interference case against President-elect Trump and all co-defendants. The court cited her romantic relationship with Nathan Wade as special prosecuting case that created an ongoing appearance of impropriety. The fact that you couldn't find out if she actually got paid back, the fact that they were having a sexual relationship, the fact that she may have benefited from going on these trips, and he essentially got all this extra money and remember, he was paid the most out of all the special prosecutors. So all that added up to the appearance of impropriety. The court decision does not dismiss the indictment, though, but requires the appointment of a new prosecutor from the Prosecutor Attorneys Council of Georgia. They determine what other prosecutor will get this case, and they take things into account like location, and all that other stuff, where all the witnesses are at. So it could be somewhere close to Fulton, or it could be somewhere on the other side of the state. But they're going to determine what other elected DA takes this case. This development introduces uncertainty in the future of the prosecution because don't forget, while Trump, now this is another piece that most people don't understand. While Trump is president, he cannot be prosecuted either by state courts or federal courts. He can still be liable for civil stuff, but any criminal stuff, he has sovereign immunity from all criminal activity. So this case would have to be put on pause for 4 years if went after he's elected, and then it can go on again. So, but I think it's going to a Republican DA, so I think they're going to drop it. this development introduces so especially Trump's impeding inauguration, which will essentially stall the case for 4 years. As of now, the official court order detailing disqualification, but it has been released. I have it, and this is it. So that's the little workup that I had gotten. So just so everybody understands, she has done. The reasons why is that, this whole, we don't know. Remember the whole GPS stuff where she was at his house and all that. So she's gone. She's gone. So just so we're clear, the election interference case with all those 28 co-defendants, with Trump and his whole team, she is not prosecuting them anymore. The appeals court has said that conflict of interest between her and her boyfriend, and especially her paying her boyfriend to do the case, was too much, and that she is now removed from the case.
That the district attorney was benefiting financially from the case because her and Nathan Wade were going on trips to California and other places. Now, ultimately, before this case got sent to the appeals court about middle of this year, around spring, early summer, the judge in this case, Judge Scott McAfee, the Superior Court judge, had said that Fani Willis could stay on the case only if Nathan Wade resigned, which he did hours later.
Now, think about that. The lower court said, well, Fani, you could stay, but only if your boyfriend resigns. One thing that shows me is that the lower court ruling kind of acknowledged that there was this impropriety that was there, right? By saying, well, either you or your boyfriend has to stay, it's kind of a tacit admission that, there's something wrong here. But the lower court is saying, well, there's not enough to remove Fani, but it's enough to remove your boyfriend. So either you can stay or your boyfriend can't stay. But like the appeals court is going into, the damage had been done, right? Well, now that you're staying, you still have the fact that all these unresolved issues. You were getting this money. You were going on vacations. You're paying them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Next thing you know, you're going on these elaborate cruises. It's too much. So the lower court tried to kind of split the baby, but the appeals court was like, yo, we're done with this. This is just way too much for us, right? It just looks super bad. First, I want to give another shout out to Logan Hall. Good luck with the LSAT, brother. We are pushing for you. You will do it. You will be successful. You will be successful. Trump and Sadow will be celebrating at McDonald's today. Yes, no, Trump is winning. Like the other super chat just said, Trump is a liar. He said we're going to get sick and tired of him winning so much, and he's winning like that all the time. So yeah, I'm not sick of it yet, though. Even though I am happy Harris didn't win. I'm so happy that Harris didn't win. That was so horrible. She was pretty bad. This case is finally going to die. Yeah, this case is dead. I'll bet anybody this case is dead. Hello from NYC. Which would be worse for you, Mr. Nate? Being forced to spend the entire 24 hours with Fani Willis is pretty bad. Or Tiffany Henry. I'd probably that's like being stabbed or being shot. I don't know which one. I don't know. 24 hours with. I'd probably spend it with Henyard because she's crazy. Yeah, she's crazy. I'm not really a Fani fan. I don't know. That'd be difficult. Any chance for sanctions or disbarment? Possibly, but all depends on how bad but that probably goes to another court. Stop being racist and pronounce Fani, not Fanny. All right, that's true. Yes. Her name is Fani. But I'm saying Fanny because I really don't care.
After that, though, the former president and several of those co-defendants, they appealed this to the Georgia Court of Appeal.
Yeah, so just so everybody understands, that's how I got here. So after the judge made that ruling that Fani could stay, then they appealed and said, hey, this is ridiculous. The judge essentially said, right? The judge is essentially saying there's a conflict here. That's why the boyfriend can't stay. So if there's a conflict here, the appearance of appearance of impropriety, then just remove the DA, right? If the case is as good as you say it is, any other DA should be able to take it. So, but that's not what the appeals court said.
It has been in limbo for several months as the appeals court tries to figure out what they were going to do here. Now, earlier this month, Vlad, you might remember, we were supposed to have.
You know what? That's fair, Maggie. Let me read it in its entirety. Yes, because it's a good super chat, and I read it partially, but let me read it again. Maggie is right. So here it is. Trump is a liar. All right. So this Drunk Engineer, which is a great super chat. I'm reading it again. Trump is a liar. He said he'd win so much that we'd be sick of it. I'm not even remotely sick yet. Keep the winning coming. Yes. True facts. Even though I can say all politicians are they're all liars. But he wasn't lying about that because Trump is definitely kicking ass. Like every fucking day, I'm like continues to watch it. It's crazy. Pardon my F-bomb, but nah, it's crazy. Here we go.
Oral arguments in front of the appeals court on this case, asking so that both sides could present how they felt about this and why the district attorney's office feels that they could stay on the case, and while the defendants said that the Fani Willis should be removed from it. The appeals court, at a last-minute effort, canceled that hearing earlier this month and had a lot of people questioning just what would happen next. And this morning, as you said, Vlad, we just got that 30-page order saying that the district attorney's office cannot continue prosecuting this case.
All right, Jared Eggleston for us in Madison, Wisconsin. Jared, you're covering another story, but you were on this story in Georgia for many, many weeks, and you're bringing us the breaking news this morning. We appreciate you as always, my friend. Get warm. Let's bring in CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. She joins me now to break down Jared's reporting. So Jessica, help us understand what was the Court of Appeals. What were they looking at, and ultimately, how did they come about with this decision? Because originally, it was what we understood was that if Nathan Wade was removed from the entirety of this case, which he did, he resigned and he recused himself from it, then she could continue to stay on. What happened?
Now, I'm going to tell you from my opinion what happened before she gets into it. My opinion from what happened is that the lower court, they looked at the lower court's opinion and said, well, the lower court's opinion essentially says there's a conflict of interest and it's an appearance of impropriety, right? That's the reason why Nathan Wade couldn't stay. Like, that is the reason why he couldn't stay. So the lower court, that was their findings of fact. And the appeals court said, well, those are your findings of fact. Is the remedy of just removing her or her boyfriend, is that remedy, was that enough? Right? Is that enough to resolve that conflict or that appearance of impropriety? The appeals court said, no, it's not, because don't forget, so when when Ashley Merchant and the rest of the co-defendants appealed, that was essentially what they're saying. They're like, well, if there's a conflict and it's there, you should remove the DA. This whole horse trading of, we'll just remove the boyfriend but not the DA, it doesn't really resolve the issue of this appearance of impropriety. So the appeals court is saying, okay, to resolve the issue, we'll just move the case to another DA's office. Now, by doing that, unless it goes to an anti-Trump DA, which is likely not going to be going to, the case is essentially dead, because now Fani has nothing to do with the case. And everything that people have been saying about communications and all that stuff can also go, because remember, it's going to be another DA. It could be a Trump-loving DA. It could be a Trump-hating DA. Who knows? But most of the DAs in Georgia are probably pro-Trump. So that's where it's going to. And the appeals court rationale is that if the case is so strong and so good and so factual, then guess what? If it goes to another DA, they're going to do the right thing. But we know the case is political, so we know what this means. If it leaves Fani, it's probably going to die because of the politics demands.
That's exactly what they were considering, was that trial court decision that the appearance of impropriety could be cured by Nathan Wade stepping aside. Was that correct?
You see, this is why you come here, right? She said the same thing I just said. I hadn't even heard this before. She said the same. You know why? Because I read the documents, right? It's simple.
And you're exactly right, Vlad, to situate us in terms of what was the Court of Appeals doing. And in this 31-page ruling, they said very clearly, our job is just to look at what the trial court did and determine whether or not that was correct under the law.
It was enough.
They acknowledged that both sides had diametrically opposed views of when Fani Willis would be required to step down under Georgia law, whether it would be automatic disqualification or whether, as she argued, there's no disqualification under Georgia law based on the appearance of impropriety.
Remember, so that was the argument. So, and that was the argument. You'll hear that on media, Midas Touch Network, and a lot of the Democratic, operatives. They'll say that, well, you're supposed to have an actual conflict and not the appearance of impropriety. And the appeals court made it clear, no, the appearance of impropriety is good enough. And there may be obviously some impropriety. And let's think about it, people. I'm talking about, no matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, think about it this way. The lead prosecutor hires somebody to prosecute you. And then you find out that the lead prosecutor who's hired this person to prosecute you is paying them more than everybody else, and is getting, and that person that's prosecuting you is taking the prosecutor on trips. They're having sex. They're at each other's house. They're doing all this other stuff. So is the lead prosecutor, which is Fani Willis, benefiting from prosecuting you? And that's what the court is saying. Yeah, that seems like she is. And in the United States, prosecutors can't benefit on prosecuting someone. And the reason why is it's the canon of ethics. Prosecutions are supposed to be all about justice. All about justice. It's not supposed to be, you're not supposed to be able to get anything from it. So in this particular case, what they're saying is that Fani Willis, the appearance, the fact that Fani Willis was in this relationship, that this whole pay and cash thing, this is too much to just ignore and just let her continue on with the case. It's too much. It really makes it seem like there is this, and yes, you don't have to have an actual conflict, but you have to have at least the appearance, and the appearance here is overwhelming.
Let's get to the punchline here, which is the problem the Georgia Court of Appeals had with the trial court was that they said it cured any questions of appearance of impropriety moving forward after Nathan Wade stepped down, but it didn't cure those questions before.
There it is, right? Exactly. Going forward, there's no problem, but you have essentially a year and a half of her getting paid to prosecute Trump. What are you doing? It's like we gotta fix that. You can't just okay, well, you got paid for a year and a half. Now going forward, you ain't gonna get paid anymore. So no, they're like, we gotta fix that, which we gotta fix. That's the appearance, right? Now, just because if you say I'm not getting paid now, but the fact that you got paid before is the problem. That's the problem. Big shout out to Ashley Merchant. Yes, for uncovering the next Tyler Perry movie script. 60-minute special. Yes. Oh, man.
The questions that plagued Fani Willis in terms of who to prosecute, in terms of which charges to bring, they said it wasn't a broad enough remedy, meaning Nathan Wade stepping down was not enough to cure the appearance of impropriety.
And just like I mentioned earlier, right? The fact that he stepped, the judge was trying to be. I don't know if you guys, if there are a lot of Christians in the chat who read the Bible, but it's like a solid. Judges are trying to make like Solomon decisions, right? Where the story in the Bible is, two women come and one woman says the baby's mine, the other woman says the baby's mine, and Solomon's like, who do you give the baby to? So Solomon's like, hey, King Solomon says, chop the baby in half. Split the baby in half, give half to her, and that's it. The one woman said, okay, I'll take my half of the baby. And the other woman said, no, don't split the baby. Just give the baby to the other woman because. So then Solomon said, well, the real mother would say, don't split the baby, right? Why would you want to kill the baby? So he gave the mother, the person who said, don't split the baby. So that's what they know as splitting the baby. So this trial court tried to split the baby, saying, hey, Fani, I'm going to let you keep the case, but I'm going to eliminate Wade. And the appeals court said, well, hold on. You can't just, because even though that fixes it going forward, what did you do to fix all the sex and the money being spent and the cash? How did you fix that? And you didn't fix that. And the only way you can fix that is by bouncing Fani Willis from the case.
Issue. Fani Willis herself had to be disqualified as well. The court, last thing, acknowledged that this is rare. Under Georgia law, the appearance of impropriety alone generally does not give rise to the need to step down and to recuse. But in this case, they said it is that rare instance.
So in other words, they're saying not every day you can do the appearance thing, but when you have this much, and again, and you have to understand as a factual matter, the lower court acknowledged that there was this appearance of impropriety, right? As a factual matter. And that the fact that the getting paid back in cash may have been BS. And the fact that, remember we had the GPS where he's leaving the house at 3:00 in the morning, like stuff like that. All of that added up to, hey, this is at the level where you should be removed because we can show that you've benefited from you've benefited from this case. And the way you've benefited is you're begging the prosecutors getting paid the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do it. And on top of that, he's taking you on these expensive trips around the world. That's how you're benefiting from it. So Fani is done.
So the other interesting aspect to this, Jessica, is that they have not chosen, perhaps it wasn't under their purview, but to toss the case out completely.
That's right. And that was not the way you asked that question again is right. That was not their purview.
Yep. But essentially, they didn't ask the court to really throw it out because the court's just looking at the conflict. By removing Fani, they threw it out. And it was, you know, so they weren't being asked. Now, just so everybody understands, Trump is still being prosecuted in the state of Georgia. That indictment is still good, but the prosecutor who handles that is not Fani Willis anymore. So another prosecutor can come in and say, hey, you know what? I don't like this indictment. This indictment is BS, and dismiss it with prejudice. And you can never bring these charges again. Now, also think about this too. What happens to the people who pleaded guilty to these charges? Those, remember, there's a whole bunch of people who pleaded guilty from the two female attorneys, like people have pleaded guilty to these cases to Fani Willis. Should they get a redo? Would you guys give them a redo? That's going to be interesting.
Their purview was looking at what the trial court said with respect to Fani Willis and the order saying if Nathan Wade steps down, that's enough. Now, what we know is that the case, or what we understand from reporting months ago, is that Fani Willis having to step down does not necessarily mean that the case itself unravels. But now we have to overlay this question about Fani Willis and her appearances of impropriety on the reality of the political calendar. And I think it is extremely unlikely that anything other than a full pause on this case occurs for the next 4 years.
So, yeah, and the reason why that this case is not going anywhere for the next 4 years, think about this, people. You then have this case, all the paperwork, all the evidence and everything on all these co-defendants have to be turned over to another DA. And can you get all of that? And they have to get up to speed. Is that going to happen in what? Less than about a month? Because you got about a month. Right? Today's the 19th, for God's sake. He gets sworn in January 20th. So we're a month out. You got to transfer all these documents. You got to get all the team up to speed over the holidays, because don't forget, we got Christmas coming on. This case is done. This case is done, Captain Oblivion. Thank you. This case is done. There's no way. There's no way. And think about it. Let's really think about it. So you got this week. So today they drop it. So today's Thursday. Friday, right? You got Friday. So now next week she's got to start handling. So now you got to send all those emails, all those documents, all that stuff, right? That's coming in Monday. But next week is Christmas. So next week, most people are going to be off the full next week because you got Christmas, then you got New Year, you got a couple of days then you got people getting back into it. Then after that, after you got those people getting back into it, then you have, then after those people get back into it, then you got Congress being sworn in, then you got Martin Luther King birthday, then you got January 20th coming in, and then what do? Then you start prosecuting again? Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So this case is essentially dead. And they are probably going to transfer it to a either pro-Trump DA or a DA who's like, I'm not dealing with this, right? Because if I'm the DA with this, I'm like, I'm not dealing with this at all. So for all intents and purposes, this case is done.
So my question to you was, if there is a pause on this case, it doesn't completely go away, but during the president-elect's term,
this case is going away. This case is going away. It's done. It's done.
This case, perhaps we're speculating, but the Trump people can make the case that there was impropriety, which is why Fani Willis has been removed. And so there should be at least a pause in this case. I'm sure they're going to argue that the case should be thrown out completely, because they're going to say that Fani Willis was tainted from the jump. And the only reason she was going after the president-elect was for political reasons. But that's a possibility.
Well, and I actually want to expand on that a little bit, in the sense of the Trump team will absolutely say this case needs to be trashed, that the only real remedy here is a complete dismissal. but for two reasons. One is the Fani Willis issue, but the other is the fact that we would be moving forward with a state criminal case against a sitting president of the United States. So there are really...
Well, I want to make that very clear. You cannot prosecute a sitting president of the United States. They know that, but they this is the way the news tries to keep you, on the edge of your seat. What's going to happen? Listen, when he gets inaugurated, he gets what's known as sovereign immunity. All criminal cases must cease. That's it. While he's there, you can't prosecute a sitting president, even on state court grounds. There's a supremacy clause of the Constitution. He's got to be able to execute his authority. So this case is dead for the next 4 years. Now, will you keep this case 4 years and bring it back? Maybe Fani would have done it, but now this is going to another DA. I think, and again, this is my prediction is this case they're going to transfer it to some other DA. They're going to take it for like maybe a week or 2 weeks, and right before Trump gets inaugurated, you know what they're going to do? They're going to ship this case off and say, guess what? This is done. We're finished with this case. It's over. It's over. That's what's going to happen. And I'm assuming before Trump gets inaugurated, he's not going to have to deal with this Georgia case. How can they pause a case for that long when the Constitution says you get the right to speedy trial? You do get a right to speedy trial, but if the case is paused by by a legal like something that if it's like, for instance, in this case, if it's the state who causes the delay, then yes, you get the right to a speedy trial. But in this case, the state is banned by operation of law from prosecuting the case. So if that's the case, then they can pause it. And what you do is it's essentially pausing the speedy trial clock. And then when the state is able to prosecute the case, then the clock starts running. So the clock is probably running now. Then they'll pause the clock for 4 years and then start the clock again. But again, I don't think this case is going after 4. Put 1 in the chat if you think this case is dismissed. Put 2 in the chat if you think this case is going forward. I think this case is dismissed. But we'll see. We'll see. That's a good question, though. But yeah, they're pausing it for those 4 years because it's not the state. It's not the state's fault. It's the operation of law. Shout out to Big Daddy Nate who turned out the Fulton County DA's office and made $100,000 in the process. Oh, that's right. Well, I didn't make it. He's not talking about Nate me. He's talking about Nate Wade. Yeah, he definitely made it. He definitely made it right. He definitely made it right. Fanny's dad was deported from my country, South Africa. It had to be serious. We are a communist country. I would like to find out why. Yeah, if you're deported, I don't know. Well, being deported back. Fanny Pack Willis versus Tiffany Hinyard round 1 fight. Who would win? I think Hinyard wins that fight. I don't see Hinyard losing that fight. And I would pick Fani or Tiffany. Tiffany Tahoe. Many people close to her are under FBI investigation. Yeah. Fani would probably be better. Oh, we got Jason. Jason thinks the case is going to go on. I don't know, Jason. I disagree with you.
2 tracks to their argument of stop this case. One is the problems with the prosecutor who decided to bring the case, who to charge, which charges to bring. The other is this idea of, does a state even have the power to prosecute a sitting president of the United States?
They do not.
And that's where I think we most strongly see the not just possibility, but probability that nothing happens in this case, if anything ever happens, for at least the duration of this presidential administration.
But Jessica, just before we go on to talk with Caitlin Huey Burns for the political aspect of the story, so if a state is not able to charge or prosecute, I should say, a sitting president of the United States, if Fani Willis was found to not have behaved improperly, would this case would we still see a pause?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
Yes, that's a good question. You would still see a pause because, like I said before, you can't criminally prosecute a sitting president. So if she wasn't disqualified, this case would be going forward. But since she was disqualified, it's not going to be going forward. If you can pause the clock, doesn't that make the right pointless? No, because it all depends. It all depends on why you pause the clock. So when I was a prosecutor, right? We had a speedy trial clock. It was the 90 days for misdemeanors and 180 days for felonies. So sometimes the defendant would say, hey, I'm not ready for trial. So if the defendant wasn't ready for trial, then the clock would pause because the state's ready, but the defendant's not ready. Because you don't want the defendant to be able to drag out the speedy trial clock, right? I'm not ready, and there's 180 days. So it really all depends on who's ready and who's not ready. So if you're not ready, then that clock runs for you. If you're ready, then you can go. So yes, the right, it's the right of the defendant to be tried in a certain amount of time frame, but you can waive that right by not being ready for trial. So it happened to us all the time. Most of the time, it was the defendants who were not ready for trial.
I think that is right, that there are two separate issues here. There's the Fani Willis issue. That's the one we're talking about this morning. The Court of Appeals saying that she needs to be removed, that's the only cure based on the conflict of interest, based on the appearance of impropriety. And this is a decision that would have occurred regardless of the outcome of the presidential election. Separately, because President Trump did win the election, because he is going to be the sitting president again, the Trump team is saying this case cannot move forward. And they're making arguments, Vlad, dealing with the power of states to reach up and prosecute the chief executive.
It's not going to happen. They're not going to prosecute. Like, I understand the news has to lead it, but no, he's not going to be prosecuted while he's president. It just doesn't happen because of the way the Constitution is. So yeah, so that's it. So just recap: Fani is out. Let's see what CNN, because CNN just is up now. Let's see what CNN is saying.
Breaking news just into CNN: the Georgia prosecutor leading the state's election interference case against President-elect Donald Trump is now disqualified. CNN's Caitlin Polance is here with more. Caitlin, what can you tell us about this? This is just coming in the last several minutes. This is a big development.
A big development, and a big development that Donald Trump has wanted for a long time. That case against him in Georgia, the criminal case where it's accusing him and several others of a racketeering conspiracy related to the 2020 election, it's already been paused. Now it's not even backburnered. This is a case that will be dead in the water because the Georgia Court of Appeals is now saying that Fani Willis, the leader of the prosecution against Donald Trump, the district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia, she should be disqualified from being able to bring that case. The Georgia Court of Appeals is saying that it's a significant appearance of impropriety caused by the conduct of a public prosecutor. That is Willis, how she behaved, how she was speaking about the case, about Trump publicly, about how she was having a relationship with the top prosecutor that was concealed in this, a man named Nathan Wade. All of that previously, the trial level judge had looked at and said, Fani Willis can stay on this case.
See, and I think that's the distinction that you guys need to understand, because that's the distinction that they're not there, that I think they're missing too. The appeals court didn't really come to any new findings. It said the lower court, the trial court, by removing Nathan Wade, factually made it clear that, hey, there is this appearance of impropriety. As a matter of fact, it's serious enough when you remove the lead prosecutor, right? You don't remove Fani, but you remove the person who's prosecuting the case. But that only really fixed everything moving forward, because now you know Fani's not getting any money from the case or whatever. But what about the stuff that happened back? She was begging him. She was going on these elaborate tricks. She was paying him all this extra money. What about all of that stuff that happened? And that's what the court said that had to be fixed, because since that happened, she should be removed because that happened. So she's been removed from the case because they said we needed to fix both what happened before Nathan Wade was fired, and then his firing fixed everything after, but it didn't fix what happened before.
We're not dismissing
and the fact that she said she was paid in cash, and the fact that you had the witness say that they were banging. Remember, they was trying to say that they weren't banging, but then you had the witness say they were banging. So they're saying all of that evidence came out to being enough to say we can't trust the fact that there's not this appearance of impropriety. That's enough to remove you from the case.
The indictment, but the Court of Appeals is now taking another look and saying, no, the trial judge was wrong. Fani Willis should be disqualified from continuing to lead this case. It would be a long process, or it will be a long process to replace her.
Just to be clear, it didn't say the trial judge was wrong. It said the trial judge didn't go far enough to fix the appearance of impropriety, right? The trial judge did the right thing by saying, they both can't work together because it was obvious, but didn't do enough to fix the actual appearance of impropriety, which was the fact that she got paid to go on these trips and allegedly paid back in cash, and nobody can really know. Like, all that stuff mattered, and like it's too much here.
Which is why I say this case is dead in the water now without Fani Willis, the person who was leading this case against Donald Trump in Fulton County. And just to keep tabs on how many cases there are against Donald Trump criminally, the other two in federal court, January 6th, and classified documents, those are dismissed.
Yeah, so just in case, just so everybody understands, those other two cases, the case that she just mentioned by Jack Smith, those are dismissed, but they dismissed without prejudice, meaning the government could bring it back at a later date. That's why I always say Joe Biden should just pardon him for those cases, or they should, when Trump gets in, he'll have his people dismiss those cases with prejudice so they can never be brought back up again. That was a little trick that Jack Smith tried to pull. But yeah, so the only cases that are alive right now against Trump are the New York cases, the 34 counts that he's found guilty of, and the civil case, but there's nothing he can do about the civil case. Civil case is still up in appeals, and the criminal case in New York has been put on for sentencing, but he has to be sentenced before January 20th. So we'll see what happens.
And then the additional case in New York City where he was set to be sentenced, that sentencing is now not happening. So as Donald Trump enters the presidency, each of these courts that is handling a criminal case is essentially removing that issue from him to have to deal with in any period of time in the near future.
All right, Kalen Polans.
So essentially, that means he only has the New York case to deal with Machan. Machan is crazy. He definitely doesn't like Trump.
Yeah, thanks for that added perspective. Let me bring in CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig. Ellie, what can you tell us about this case down in Georgia, the Fulton County case alleging election subversion against Donald Trump and a whole cot?
Let me see. Nate's always got his finger on the pulse. Love your videos and objective legal analysis you bring to it. Oh, the hot tea. Thank you so much, Natalie. You bring to the hot tea. Thank you so much, Natalie. So once again, taxpayers had to pay millions. Yeah, millions for Democrats. You have a bedroom fund, which is true. It's true. All to the benefit for their kickbacks. Hey, listen, I got to say allegedly, but it's allegedly. So let's see. Now, I want to also make it so everybody understands where my position was on this particular case. It was indicted. I definitely understood the indictment. There have been people who've pled guilty. I want you guys to start think about that. What about those people who pled guilty? That to this case. What's her name? The woman from the Kraken. I forgot her name. She pled guilty. Janelle Ellis pled guilty. There are people who pled guilty. What about those people? The fact that they pled guilty, should they get a second bite at the apple? Because they said they did all this. Remember, they said they were election interference people, right? There are people who pled guilty in this case. I want people to start. I'm asking you guys a question. What do you think happens to those people? Should they get a redo? Especially now that the prosecutor had this appearance of impropriety. Thanks for becoming a member, KC Cat. And then how do you pull that back? Oh, all right, sure. Thank you, Uncivil. I'll send it to you right now. Let me get my boy Uncivil Law in here. Can you please send me the link? Yes, brother. Here it is. There is the link for you. There's the link for you, my brother. You got another lawyer coming inside here. Let me continue to play this.
Cadre of other co-defendants, Kalen Polans was saying that potentially this case is just completely dead now. Is that the case? Is it completely dead? Or is it possible you could have another prosecutor come in and take it over?
Well, Jim, for all practical purposes, it's over. This case was already in deep trouble because of the conduct of the district attorney, Fani Willis, and now it's all but over. So just to remind people, this is one of the 4 criminal indictments that had been brought against Donald Trump. The allegations that Fani Willis made here and the Fulton County DA's office made here related to Donald Trump's effort to subvert the 2020 election. There are many other defendants beyond Donald Trump in this case. Yeah. Now, during the pretrial process, Donald Trump and some of his co-defendants alleged that the DA, Fani Willis, had a conflict of interest. She had a relationship, which she later admitted, with Nathan Wade, a person who had been brought in from the outside to be the lead prosecutor on this case.
Well, he's just saying the same thing I just said like 3-4 times, but I want to show you because I think this is the important part. But it also shows you too, right? If you think you're in the right, why would you give it up? Because now those people who let's just call it what it is, all the snitches. They try to snitch out Trump. And now Trump and them is probably going to get a walk, and these snitches got to do time. They got criminal records. He's, unfortunately, here's Sidney Powell. Sidney Powell, remember, she copped the plea. If she now this also tells you hold the line, sometimes shit works. She copped the plea. Now she's got to do time, but everybody else is probably going to get a walk. That's crazy. It's crazy. But here's Sidney Powell.
The faces of former President Donald Trump's effort to overturn the 2020 election. Today, Sidney Powell pleaded guilty. Powell was charged with Trump and 17 others of violating Georgia's anti-racketeering law. She pleaded guilty to 6 misdemeanors today and will serve 6 years of probation. She also agrees to testify against her co-defendants. She was one of the faces of former. Also agrees to testify.
He's going to testify against the co-defendants. She snitched. She got that. This is the worst type of snitching, right? You snitching. Yeah, she got the diversion program, but she's got to testify. She's got to testify. She's a snitch. Let's call it what it is. Who in the chat? I'm looking at the chat now. Who in the chat doesn't think she's a snitch? She's a snitch. She's that state's evidence right there. She's got the deal with the misdemeanor to testify against the other people. She's snitching. She's a snitch. Come on. Let's call it what it is. What are we putting around here? She's snitch. She's a snitch. Yeah. Matter of fact, if you think she's a snitch, put 1 in the chat. If you think she's not a snitch, put 2. She's a snitch. Yeah, all right. But now she got caught up with the whole, she snitched and it's sad, but she snitched and got caught up there. She's a snitch. And it's crazy because the snitch is the one. Now she's got the criminal record and she got this. But if I'm her lawyer, I'm filing papers to try to get her freed. I'm filing papers like, hold on, I want the other, I'm saying I'm going to make it happen. But she snitched out. And remember, who else snitched out? Jenna Ellis. Remember, Jenna Ellis snitched out too. Here's Jenna Ellis. She snitched out too. She states evidence right here too.
Ellis has agreed to a plea deal in the Georgia election interference case. Ellis was one of 19 people charged in the case, including former President Donald Trump. Prosecutors want Ellis to serve 5 years probation, pay $5,000 in restitution, and finish 100 hours of community service.
She didn't hold the line. She didn't hold the line. She snitched out. She states evidence. And now, just imagine that. Everybody who snitched are the people who got punished. And everyone else is probably going to walk free. What irony, right? What irony. The snitches all got criminal records. But the people who held the line are all walking free. Right? Probably going to walk free. Trump is not going to impact any charges. Anybody else is anybody. That's crazy. That's crazy. The karma, huh? It's karma. Karma. Wow.
I believe in and I value election integrity.
If
I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures.
She's a snitch. State's evidence. She states evidence. Yeah. Unbelievable. But what happens to those people? If you're her lawyer, you file an motion like, yo, I want to reconsider this, right?
There were a series of televised hearings on this issue last year, during which Fani Willis and Nathan Wade both testified, yes, we had this relationship, but it didn't start until after Nathan Wade became the lead prosecutor. And then with regard to the allegation that their finances had been intermingled because Nathan Wade was being paid a lot of money to work on this case, the testimony was essentially that they split the costs on everything and they did it all by cash. Well, the trial judge here found that there were significant questions about the truthfulness of
Snitching have to stay. You're cold, TJ. You're cold. That's cold, TJ. I think they should get a second chance. You guys in the chat are cold with the snitches. They snitch. So what? Okay. But that doesn't mean they can't. Like, let them do their time. You got no love for the snitches. You guys are crazy. You need the snitches. Don't get me wrong. If you get caught up, you get caught up. But yeah, you guys got no love for the snitches. Snitches.
Fani Willis's testimony. The trial judge said, quote, the odor of mendacity remains around this case. He said there's real questions about whether her testimony was untruthful. That's a quote, untruthful from the trial judge. But nonetheless, the trial judge said, well, we can solve this if Nathan Wade leaves the case. And that's what ended up happening. But clearly the Court of Appeals has now decided that's not sufficient. They lay substantial blame at the feet of the elected district attorney, Fani Willis. And now as a result, this case, it's not quite dismissed, but it means that Fani Willis and her office will be disqualified from handling it. And as a practical matter, it now goes into a sort of purgatory for an undefined amount of time. It's not coming back. It's over.
Yeah, and Ellie, I guess that this begs the question, had Fani Willis stepped aside sooner when all of these questions were being raised, when there was all of that controversy, we all covered this, had she stepped aside sooner, handed this off to somebody else, is it possible that we would not be at this point, that case could still be alive?
There are a lot of things Fani Willis could have done differently, I think, to avoid this ruling.
Well, I think not hire your boyfriend, bang him, and then pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then have him take you on elaborate vacations and say he paid you back in cash. That is what you like. That's clearly what happened here. I'm like, I don't understand. Well, what's the issue here? They got themselves into this situation. Listen, people, what? If you have information about criminal activity, you should make it known to the authority. I just feel bad for these snitches in this case because they snitched, pled guilty to crime. And now, unfortunately, they have to do time. Where the people who they snitching on don't have to do any time. It's horrible. I think I would drop charges against the snitches, but hey, whatever. Nathan the lawyer looked out for themselves, taking a deal. Fulfill the obligations laid out for the deal. Lay at the dogs, you get fleet. That's true. Yeah. So you guys don't have any qualms with the snitches, right? Snitches should just be done, huh? I think they should file and at least try to get because
Number one, she could have stepped aside way earlier, as you said. Number two, obviously, she has acknowledged it was a mistake to have an affair with the lead prosecutor on the case, have a relationship with the lead prosecutor on this case. And separately, and I'm looking to see if this is in the opinion, I believe it is, because I know it's one of the issues that was briefed to the Georgia Court of Appeals. The DA made statements outside of court that the trial judge found were, quote, legally improper. For example, she went in front of a church while this case was pending, and she said essentially the reason these defendants have brought these motions, standard legal motions, is because they're playing the race card.
Yeah, that was another thing that the appeals court did mention about, because she was saying they're being racist and all that stuff, and generally it's improper to talk about. So they went that whole route and said that she should be that also wasn't appropriate. And so you mostly everything, you have to CNN, mostly everything, but CNN is saying exactly what I'm saying. It's true.
And the defendants, Donald Trump and other defense lawyers, argued that violated the responsibilities and ethics of a prosecutor. And the trial judge oddly said those statements that Fani Willis made out of court were, quote, legally improper. And then he did nothing about it. He said essentially, too bad there's no remedy. So still going through this Court of Appeals opinion, I'm interested to see if they also opine on that as well.
Yeah, and Ellie, we should remind our viewers, this is the case during which Donald Trump submitted himself to the Fulton County Jail for a mugshot. That infamous mugshot that is going to be.
Just imagine, he submitted himself to this thing for the mugshot. He gets the mugshot, right? Now, that case is essentially going to be dismissed. The case is gone. And then the people who snitched him out to get him to that place are the ones who are paying the price. Unbelievable. Either Trump is the luckiest. Trump should just play lotto because he's super lucky.
Remembered by so many of us for a very, very long time. But for all intents and purposes, he's not going to have his day in court to defend himself against these charges that were coming out of Fulton County, which, to refresh our memories, but Ellie, these were very serious charges when they first came out.
Yeah, so these charges came out, Jim, in the summer, August of 2023. And it was actually the fourth of the four indictments to drop. And What this case charges is that Donald Trump and I believe 18 others, I think there was 19 total defendants, including people like Jeffrey Clark, Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, and others, were part of what's called the racketeering enterprise. It was a state level, Georgia state level racketeering charge, which essentially charged that Donald Trump was at the head of this organization that existed in order to try to overturn and steal the 2020 election. The allegations that the DA made largely overlap with the allegations that Jack Smith made in his federal case in Washington, D.C. That's already been dismissed on a different basis. Let's remember, just to try to keep this all straight, the two Jack Smith federal cases have both been dismissed voluntarily by Jack Smith, because now that Donald Trump's been reelected, Jack Smith acknowledges he cannot proceed with the prosecution. There was a bit of a separate question about the two state cases. They're still arguing over whether the Manhattan hush money case can proceed to sentencing. That's ongoing. And then this is the fourth case. This is the Georgia state level case. And for now, it's not even going to matter what Trump's status is as president-elect. For now, the Court of Appeals has basically taken this whole case off the track. Separately, by the way, they're not going to be able to proceed once Donald Trump gets sworn in on January 20th. So this case was going down the tubes either way, but I guess this expedites it.
Yeah, this case is done. Dan says, Nate, about the Trump co-defendants, to a speedy trial, they won't want to prosecute the co-defendants and let Trump know the case. What about the co-defendants? All right, so all just so everybody stands, Trump and all the co-defendants that were still being prosecuted, their case has been moved. So Fani can't prosecute this whole case. Everything associated with this case is now going to another prosecutor. Fani has nothing to do with any of this stuff anymore. And it was because now I'll just go over it quick before I'm get out of here, because I still have to do. So just so we're all on the same page, because I want to put everybody on the same page. Okay. So first, Fani. First, let me go. Let me do this. So we're all on the same page. Fani Willis hired her boyfriend Nathan Wade to prosecute Donald Trump. She paid him more money than anybody else. And at the time when he was working the case, she had a sexual relationship with Nathan Wade. That sexual relationship, so his main source of income at the time was prosecuting Trump and these co-defendants. So that's where he was making his money. During that time, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade started going out, and she's not only banging him, but they're going on these elaborate trips. She gives him like this just huge birthday stuff. It really, really became a thing. So one of the co-defendants, Michael Roman, his lawyer, Ashley Merchant, said, well, hey, we know that these guys have a relationship. This is improper for the prosecutor to be hiring people and then using the money for the prosecution to go on these elaborate trips. So that happened there. So then the judge in the trial court said, you know what, all of this is improper, right? The fact that you did this fact, and it gives you the appearance of impropriety. So he said, we're going to split the baby. We're going to say you and your boyfriend can't continue to prosecute. So the co-defendants in the Georgia case went to the appeals court and said, well, hold on, appeals court. The trial court said that there's this appearance of impropriety, said that these statements she made were improper, said all this stuff, but then lets her continue on with the case. They said what that does is it fixes the conflict going forward, the fact that Nathan Wade's not there. But what about the conflict going back? The fact that she's banging this guy, the fact that she's going on these elaborate trips, the fact that she's making these improper statements. If the case is good, then it should go to another DA. So the Court of Appeals said yes. If the case is good, it should go to another DA. Now, that also brought the other question that we all were wrestling with too. What about the other co-defendants who pleaded guilty? Because now all the co-defendants who did not plead guilty are essentially, their case is going to go like a fart in the wind. It's gone. But what about the ones who pled guilty? Because they have the same thing. Do they get the ability to go back and say and get their cases reviewed by the new district attorney? But now most people in the chat said, well, since they snitched, they should get what they got. Most of them have criminal records now. And other people are saying, well, maybe they should get another chance because there was some coercive pieces to this. So I don't know how you guys feel, but at the end of the day, about the snitches, I don't know. I feel that, so we looked at Sidney Powell, for instance, who snitched. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the snitches. I think if it's wrong for them to prosecute Trump and the rest of them, by rule, I think it's wrong to prosecute Sydney. But she snitched, and she's got a criminal record. And don't forget, she said that this is state's evidence against Trump. So we'll see. We'll see if the case goes on. So that is the news of the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this live. This is crazy. So Trump said he's winning, and he's going to keep winning, and he's keeps winning and winning and winning. He's winning and winning and winning and winning. And my God, I am getting sick of all the winning. He was right when he said I'm going to make people sick of winning. I'm sick of winning, and we haven't even started the presidency yet. So let's see. Let's see if he makes us totally sick of winning. I don't know. Thanks, Nathan. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the people who super chatted. Thank you for all the people who joined as members. Because with this YouTube game, like YouTube has been thrashing a lot of my videos that I've been trying to put out lately because it's if you're a YouTuber, since I don't work for like ABC or whatever, my videos have a higher level of restriction. So a lot of the videos that I want to put out, I can't put out. But we're trying to figure a way around it. Just maybe make them members only because it's crazy. Like they age restricted my last video, which was first it was green, but then they age restricted it. So this is crazy. But I definitely want to thank everybody for coming, and we will see, and we'll see what's happening with this Fani Willis. But just at the end of the day, the snitches got killed. They get killed. They're in a tough place, and this case is essentially dead. So, if anything, I'm upload to Rumble, so I'm on Rumble. So again, don't forget, like, share, subscribe to the great YouTube stuff. I'm Nate the Lawyer, and I'll see you next time. Peace.